And I'm here with my wonderful co-host
Shannon Green,
and we
Barry
have
White of podcasting.
And today on the show, live in the studio, we have John Pappas.
Hello. Pleasure to be here. Thank you, guys.
Hello and welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to sit down and talk with the Australian Louis Simmons. The oracle of powerlifting in Australia.
Frustrated powerlifting dad.
I know.
How excited are you?
And you're here.
Hey now, you missed the opportunity. But thanks, I'm glad that you're glad that I'm here.
So John was asking questions about wanting some programming questions on the podcast. So I said, well, why don't you come on and ask them to me?
I always feel like, who's John? Because I call him Pappas. I know. But
look,
anyway,
I go by many names and I'll take any of them.
I call you many different things than that as well, but I've never called you John.
No, so the situation is I've been training under you for now, a couple of years, 3 years. Just come off a back injury when I deviated from your program.
Oh, naughty.
I know. I always know better. Everyone knows better than the coach, don't they? Anyway, so slowly getting back into things, I was launching questions at you and you come back and said, well, jump on the pod. Let's have a chat about some of those things. And what we focus discussions on is everyone jumps online, wants to grab a program, jump on Reddit, jump on Facebook, jump on this $20 program, 6 weeks here, 6 weeks there. And you've said, no, you need to go back. You need to build something, a base upon which you can go into programming. I've competed in powerlifting now for 5, 6, 7 years, and even I need to do that in some stages. So we thought it might be useful to come on here in an open platform and discuss what, if someone with a degree of experience needs to do that, what does the absolute novice need to do that? With the growth of powerlifting, you can't just grab your program off the internet. I think you need to build something, and it's often not discussed what that something actually entails. Yeah,
well, that's sort of obviously the beauty and the downfall. Powerlifting has exploded, but the problem now is everyone's an online coach. And that has its downfalls, and it also has its benefits as well. But you can't. People just don't understand. A program is just a way to manage fatigue within the training cycle. So you actually need to know how to execute the lifts correctly before you can even embark on a program, because if you don't, your progress is going to be so linear that really writing down a structured program is useless, because you don't really have a starting point. Like when you're an intermediate or an advanced lifter, you know your maxes, you know what you can do for 5 reps, you know what you can do for 3 reps. You can't increase the weight linearly every week, because you're just going to die and you don't get anywhere, or you get injured. That's when you need a program. That's when it needs some sort of structure, so you can get the required training volume in, and then still be able to obviously execute technical execution on the lifts and accumulate enough volume and intensity up the scale, so then it actually accumulates to something when a competition comes around. But if you're an absolute novice lifter, so like I've got a pretty extensive questionnaire I give people when I do online programming, and I've got a lot of questions on there. What's your current max? What's your best competition maxes? What's your best 5RM competition squat, bench and deadlift? What's your best 3RM competition squat, bench or deadlift? What's your best 5x5 competition squat, bench and deadlift? What's your best multiple sets of 3, like 3 to 5 sets of 3 competition squat, bench or deadlift? What's your best 5RM RDL? What's your best 5RM front squat? What's your best 5RM high bar squat? So on and so forth. And then sometimes I get people that want to do online programming, and I send out this questionnaire, and then they send it back with half the questions not answered, and I send it back, I'm like, you didn't answer the questions. And they're like, oh, I've never done a 5x5. And it's like, well, if you don't know your 5x5, I can't really program for you, because you don't you don't even really know your maxes. You don't know and there's obviously going to be some limitations there. And then I ask people, send me your training videos of your last 3 training. I don't film my training sessions. I'm like, well, if you don't film them, how do you know if you're squatting any good? Like, good lifters, I mean, I've been filming my training since 2003, something like that, and wasn't putting it on Facebook. We'd just have a camcorder, we record it, we'd watch back the technique and trying to improve each time. And essentially, if you're not filming your training now, like, how do you even know if you're any good? How do you know what you're doing wrong? How do you even know if you can go to the next weight? Because it's not about how much you can lift from point A to B. Powerlifting is a sport, so you need to train the sport, the competition, the lifts, how they're supposed to be executed. Joints need to function in a certain way, and if you're not creating that tension and activating the muscles how they're supposed to be activated, then you're not going to get anything out of it, and it's not really going to produce any results. So you kind of come and get a program, and you're not really going to get much out of it. Or if you're trying to get a coach to teach you technical lifts online, that is just fucking horrendous. It's so impossible. Like, you can do it, but it's going to take 5 times as long than you just walking into the gym.
Yeah, it's hard for a novice lifter.
And if you can't comprehend those cues, you're just not going to know what the person's saying. I've had lifters that are intermediate lifters, and I've coached online, and then they've come in and we've done one-on-one sessions, and in an hour I've completely changed their technique, but they got it. It's stuff I said to them online that they couldn't grasp, and just putting them in the position and actually feeling what they need to feel, because it's more of a feeling. You got to be able to feel that, because you can't always see while you're doing the lift. You've got to have the feeling associated with what it looks like, and then they're a completely different lifter, and their technique changes, and then their performance just starts improving tenfold because they're actually executing the lifts properly. So it's so
sometimes that tactile feedback is required as well, that hands-on, feel this, feel that, a bit of manipulation or something like that, because technique is a fluctuating thing. I found as well. What a novice considers a good squat to be may be different to some of these guys at Big Dogs or Pro Raw or these types of meet, how they're squatting. And I think that's often lost on intermediate lifters as well, and I know I've been guilty of this. I don't spend the time re-evaluating my technique. Now, I've competed in the under 90s when I first started, all the way up to the 125s. Leverages change, everything changes, and I was guilty of not re-evaluating my technique. So it was interesting you're saying that the premise and the starting point for a program is technique, but what does that mean? A squat for a novice may actually be slightly different from a squat, for someone who's advanced, the way that they're, executing the lift, even though it might look the same to the untrained. The foundations are all the same, though. There's certain principles that you've got to do, like creating tension through the feet and in the hips, and creating core stability, tight hands, getting your lats tight, all these other sort of things. But obviously, someone with a lot more muscle, their bar position might be different, or the way they bench, because obviously you got muscle. Size of the muscle is going to change the way that muscle pulls on that lever, which is going to give it a slightly different trajectory and stuff like that. It's going to allow you to get away with more stuff. You're going to be able to, because like if you're a big bench presser and you got a lot of upper body mass, when you put the bar on your back, you already create tension just by putting your hands on the bar, because you've got so much muscle. Whereas if you look like spaghetti, then you're going to have to create that tension yourself with the muscles, because you don't have that requisite tightness. And so in saying that, that it's going to be slightly different. It may look slightly different, but the concepts are still all the same. But you need, just don't be a tight ass. Don't buy a fucking $400 SBD belt. Go and spend that $400 on a coach teaching you how to lift. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
I've had my belt for
all the gear and no idea.
I've had my belt for 15 years. At the time, there was only a few companies. You get Inza, you get Titan, I think Metal, but Metal there wasn't that many people that brought Metal into the country. You'd have to buy from the US, actually. There wasn't really anything in Australia. And I bought my Titan belt. It's a 13mm double prong leather belt. I've had it for 15 years and I haven't changed it. It served me well, and I bought it because it was in my size and it was on special. You know what I mean? But if I put an SBD belt on, it's not going to make me a better lifter. That money's going better towards, forget about like belts and everything. And people I get questions like that all the time. Oh, what belt should I buy? Fuck, whatever's the cheapest. Do you know what I mean? That like, oh, should I get 10 mil or 13 mil? It's not going to matter. Like Lauren uses a 10 mil belt. 2 extra mil is not going to make you squat 300 kilos more. It's not going to make a difference, really.
It's not that easy, you mean?
It's just for something for you to push against. Do you know what I mean? Buy some cheap shoes, buy a cheap belt, invest the money in a coach, because that's going to last you your whole career. If you hire a good coach, the money you're going to save then on injuries, apart from like the belt's not going to protect you from injuries that you develop over a long time, overuse injuries and stuff like that. At least if you invest the money in a good coach, he's going to teach you all these things and get you squatting and get you progressing from the start. Like, I hate people wasting time. Like, don't go and spend 6 months with an online coach, get nowhere, and then you spend a month with a good coach and like you're a completely different lifter. Just go to the good coach from the start. Like, I don't understand why people waste money.
No, of course. And it's funny, I mean, I'll stick to talking about powerlifting because that's what I'm more versed in, but it seems to be the sport is at an interesting time at the moment.
Yeah.
We had, the 90s and the multiply, the early 2000s, where in Australia at least it was more of a hobby type thing.
Yep.
And then we got the everyone's a winner type stage, and I think now we're starting to transition into, as I keep saying with these meets like Big Dogs and Pro Raw and things like that, people are starting to realise it is a sport in and of itself.
And it's a competition.
It is, and it's not so much, oh, hey, I did squatting when I was back in high school, so I'll be able to just run onto the platform and no one, will be able to tell that I've never done this before because, hey, everyone at the gym down at, the local 24-hour gym is doing it. How hard could it be?
Yeah.
I think people are starting to realise that a lot more goes into powerlifting than what it appears.
Yeah.
And I think that...
Yeah, where people go, oh, so you just turn up and you got to just do 1 rep.
Yeah.
I remember when I came from CrossFit, people go, oh, so it's just 1 rep. I'm like, well, yeah. And you get 3 attempts. Yeah, but it's a little bit more than that.
Exactly. And sometimes those 3 attempts, I mean... For people that haven't competed, that's the attitude. But I mean, you guys would both know I'm wiped for a week after a powerlifting, especially doing an equipped meet, for example. I can't train for a week. I don't understand how these guys do a meet. And
the
then they're
first
back
comp
into
that I did, and you told me you'll feel like you've been hit by a train, and I was like, yeah, like because I'd done CrossFit competitions before where I've been like, DOMs and sore for like a few days. I was literally wiped out. Like I had, I was like in a cloud, like just hazy for like at least 5 days, and then I finally was like, oh, I can kind of say hello to people now.
It's interesting how that works, though, and I think it goes back to what we were saying earlier about needing that program, and you can't isolate 6 weeks or 12 weeks in a contest, in a prep for a contest, and expect to come out the other end in a better position. You might get some good numbers on the day, and you might have progressed, but you would have progressed doing anything really at that stage. I think you need to have a much longer a plan and a periodized approach, which I'm sure we'll get into later. But what I found interesting in what you were just saying then is that you get people come to you and they don't know a 5RM, for example, they don't know this, they don't know that. That is one thing, but to come in and not complete, say, a front squat, what's your max front, or what's, a rough range that you can do for, say, a front squat, which really is a rudimentary lift in the context of powerlifting. It's something you should really know what it is. What do you do in that situation? If I come to you and say, what's a front squat? How do I do that? I mean, powerlifting's back squat. What do I need to do that for? What do you do in that type of scenario?
Well, generally, like, to be honest, like, I wouldn't really give a front squat till I get someone back squatting perfectly, realistically. Like, essentially, like, beginners need to do very specific stuff if they have a general base of strength, so they have some sort of GPP. So if you get someone just come off the street, desk jockey, never trained, they're not going to do squat, bench and deadlift. They're going to do dumbbell presses.
He doesn't let them near a barbell.
I don't let people near a barbell for 2 months. They're going to do leg presses, drag sleds, dumbbells, pull downs, try and build some requisite muscle, some integrity, teach them the concepts of what they need to do as far as like their hands and their shoulders and their feet. And then if they've got that requisite strength and stability, then we start to teach them to squat, bench and deadlift. Yeah, and then build them up in that. But then if their goal is to become a power lifter, I want them to be good technically first. Like, I don't care about the load that's on the bar, because if I get you technically good and we keep training properly within like proper periodization parameters, and adhering to the fundamentals of strength and conditioning, you're just going to keep getting stronger anyway, and you're not going to get injured. You know what I mean? Like, getting that requisite volume in and those perfect reps. Like, okay, so people doing like shitty reps, grinding out reps in powerlifting preps, I don't see the point. Like, when you're doing that rep, you're trying to train the sports form. Even if you're doing a safety bar squat, you're still trying to train the sports form with your legs. You're just taking the hands out of it, maybe placing a little bit more stress on your thoracic, whatever. But when you apply that stress to the muscle, if you're shifting and changing your knees, flopping in, you're not getting like rate coding to the muscles. You're not targeting the right muscle fibers. Like, you're switching between like muscle groups and muscle fibers. You're not getting that fatigue to that specific muscle group, and you're not developing like the neural qualities within that muscle to get the right firing order. Because when you're in competition mode, when you walk up to the platform, the last thing you're thinking about is technique. That shit needs to be ingrained. You walk up and you do it like it's brushing your teeth. Do you know what I mean? You're just going through the motions and just fucking coming down and going up. So all that stuff has to be developed in training. It's like, that's what training is. When you train for football, you go and do drills at football training to learn how to pass a ball, to run, to sidestep, and you bring all of that into play on competition days, or you have mini games where you bring some of it into play, but you're not playing at a competition intensity or level. But like, it's just the same. It's just a sport. Like, you need to develop the quality. So if you're in a gym and you're just grinding out shit reps, you're not creating anything. Like, you're training at too higher intensity that you can cope with. It's not, as I said, it's not how much you can lift. It's how much you can lift without form breaking down. Technical failure is failure in powerlifting. It's not bro bodybuilding where you go to ultimate failure. We just want to go, once that technique breaks down, and everyone's going to have a given percentage that they allow, but we don't want it to break down any more, that then it's going to develop a bad habit. And then you go and do that on platform day because you always do it, then you miss the lift, and then you cry because you missed the lift. It's like, you should just done the training properly and you wouldn't have the issue.
Well, I know for me, for my prep for nationals this year, I had a little bit of an issue with my knee or my calf, whatever it was, and I couldn't wear wraps. So we were like, well, I'm not going to pull out of nationals. I'll just, if I have to squat in sleeves on the day, I'll just squat in sleeves, but we'll just let it heal itself. And obviously getting stronger wearing sleeves is not going to be detrimental to me doing a wrap squat. And then I seem to always have a little bit of a lot of people do that, little bit of a mental breakdown, because squats are your first lift and you get a bit nervous and all of that, and you're always shitting yourself. And then in training, I remember I started to just have a few little technical things that just, like just things that weren't working, and things were breaking down. And not because it was too heavy, just having little brain farts. And I was like, right, strip it all back. And I don't care. I saw it all internally. I'm going to pretend I've never squatted before. And what cues do I give to my clients? Jesus. And sorry, getting passionate here. What cues do I give to my clients? So I did. I just I took everything away that I was doing, and I re-cued everything right from the ground up, feet first, hands on the bar, then feet first, everything, and I layered in a different system of my cues. And then I remember, like, my last 3 squat sessions were really good, and then my last one in the gym, I was like, did not once think about the weight on the bar, and I just went up to the bar and I just approached it the exact same way from the empty bar to the last rep, and it was just exact identical reps for each one. And then on comp day, I was like, that's all I have to do. And my third rep, for one, I made the third rep, I got it, which is very rare. I think it's happened once before, but I squat 192.5 kilos, all-time PB, and it looked pretty much same as what my opening squat did. you know, like slightly slower, but there was no, you know, my technique didn't fail.
And that's the beauty of executing lifts technically in training, and then it comes out on the platform.
Well, that's the thing. I don't know about you, Loz, and you, Shan, but I don't remember some of my biggest lifts.
No, I don't remember them at all.
You know, I've squatted over 300 in an equipped meet, but I remember walking up to the bar, and I remember the call to rack the bar, and I don't remember much in between. And I think that speaks to what training really is about, because your performance on meet day is really going to be the sum and the accumulation of all the reps you've done in the gym.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Absolutely.
what you were just what you were saying earlier, insofar as, you know, you can't execute like crap in the gym and then expect that somehow on meet day. I think the better example for that is a deadlift.
Yeah.
On Instagram, we see a lot of these people, you know, deadlift,
Ramping
knees,
it,
ramping,
resting it on the
knees aren't
thighs
locked out, things like that. And often it's from people who are infinitely stronger than I am, and probably stronger than I'll ever be. But then when it comes to meet day, often they're the same people that turn around and say, the judges ruined me, the judges screwed me, the judges this, the judges that, the bar this, the plate that. Mate, I've been watching your videos for 3 months. You haven't deadlifted once in 3 months. You've not performed a competition lift in 3 months. And that's not any one person in particular. It's in my view, it's a growing trend, because
100%.
now, having been injured, I've been judging, you know, at the meets that have been held here, and I'm seeing it more and more frequently. People then want to come up and show you the video this and the video that. I said, mate, the video doesn't mean anything. You just need to go back and start training properly. And I think that's what you were saying earlier, because if you film from a certain angle, and you know,
you
Loz,
get away
you can
with
speak
it.
to this.
Friendly angles.
As the female in the room, it's all about the angles. If you've only got an online coach and you film from a certain angle, that might be hiding a technical deficiency that you have, or you know, a deficiency insofar as performing the comp lift that on comp day will be exposed. You're the only one on that platform. There's nowhere to hide on the platform. That's the beauty of powerlifting. You're there by yourself. So I think it really speaks to what you were saying about building that technical base and not deviating from that technical base to stick to the numbers on a piece of paper.
And then that's another thing. Like if because you're a beginner, your progress is just going to be that linear. You just work up till you got technical breakdown, go back just below it, and then work and drill the form, and then like you're going to get sufficient volume, and then once you reach technical breakdown there, the set's over, and then you just go on to the next lift or do some accessory work. Like it's very like, for a beginner, like you don't need much of a program, because you're pretty much just going to add weight every week for months, especially if you're staying within the technical parameters. And you'll notice that when people first come in the gym, they fucking lift tomato sauce bottles and they improve, you know what I mean? Like it's just but it's true, you know what I mean? And it's the same once you get to powerlifting and you learn the new technique, and you start not at the weight that you broed in the gym, but you start at the bottom and build up and working with the technique. You just tend to be able to add weight for months on end to a degree. Obviously not jumping up in 10s, you jump up in earrings, 1.25s or 2.5s, a bit of decoration. You just jump, and you can make progress fairly linearly that way. So there's not really a program or a very structured program per se. You just need to go and learn how to lift, and then once you have that prerequisite of lifting, and then you're getting to that limit where now you're not making progress that way, that you need to start monitoring or manipulating the fatigue so that you can actually progress. Then a program's needed.
But it's about picking up that low-hanging fruit, isn't it? Like, if you can take things without having to go through the rigmarole of designing a program and tracking fatigue and all those types of things, grab it, because you only 100%. Get that opportunity once, really, unless you go away from training for a long period of time. But something you said earlier that's quite interesting, I think is often overlooked, is stability is a massive part in powerlifting. It looks quite easy to unrack a bar and essentially sit down and stand back up. But you were saying one of the first things you do is not let people touch the barbell. They want to come in and be the next, you know, whoever, Eric Lillybridge. They've seen someone that they're inspired by on Instagram. They think they're going to come in here and just start doing squat, and that's going to get them to where they need to be. But it's interesting what you were saying. If the desk jockey comes in, what types of things are you doing? What do you mean by stability? Because I think people see, does that mean what, I stand on a Bosu ball upside down and catch the medicine ball? Or?
Okay, so like always when I coach someone, it starts with a needs analysis and an assessment. So I look at them, I look at joint range of motion, try and figure out if they've got the requisite range of motion in the hips, if they have any injuries that are going to be a limiting factor. I mean, the beauty of being a therapist as well, a massage therapist, and I get to treat a lot of powerlifters, I get to see a lot of issues as well. And so, again, sometimes they come in, they have a restriction, I figure out what it is muscularly. I can either treat it or give them a stretching or mobility protocol to help loosen it up, get their joints functioning how they're supposed to, and then I build them. It's old isolate and then integrate, old Paul Check thing. Good old Paul Check reigns supreme. But he always used to say isolate and then integrate, which is pretty true. It's hard to teach someone a complex movement. Like squatting is a complex movement because there's a lot of things that are going on. Your feet, the knees, the hips, the stabilizing the spine, the hands, all that sort of stuff. Whereas I can take them and teach them a squat without a bar, like a bodyweight squat or with a dumbbell or something like that. Or if they don't have the leg strength to do that, I can take them on a leg press or drag sleds. But generally, like most of the time, what I'll do is I'll start people out with a lot of core work, stabilization work like planks, bird dogs, side planks, progress that up into various types of ab work and stuff like that. Dragging a sled, dragging a sled's hard to fuck up. As long as you can walk, you can drag a sled. Do you know what I mean? So it's a pretty simple movement. Teach them to be tight in that. Teach them to keep their upper back tight. So we're teaching actually part of the bench press and the deadlift while we're dragging a sled. Getting them to use their legs, getting the muscles working. Take them on a leg press. We start training the quads, the glutes, the hamstrings. Get them good at back or reverse hypers and back extensions and stuff like that. Build some prerequisite in the lower back, because you're going to go and lift up a 20 kilo barbell. So if you can't do 20 kilos for 15 reps, like on a dumbbell or something like that, where the hell are you going to progress to? Do you know what I mean? So try and break down those movements, train those motor patterns individually, and then integrate them into the squat. And then I find it quite easy to teach them to squat, because we've already taught some of the fundamentals of each part of that lift, and then we get them to integrate it, put a bar on their back, and then we can start progressively loading it. And it's a lot easier for them to think, because it's obviously you got 40 things going on at once. It's like I can equate it to jiu-jitsu. When I started jiu-jitsu, it's like the first 6 months in jiu-jitsu, you just feel like you're drowning, and people are trying to teach you things, but you don't know where your body is in space and time. So generally they break it down at the beginning of the class, and they teach portions of each position, and then over time you get it. It's applying the same thing that I learned in martial arts through kickboxing. You got to get foot movement first. You don't just go in and do spinning back fists and spinning back kicks. We learn footwork, we learn head movement, we learn to throw the jab, then we learn to throw the cross, then we learn the hooks, and then we learn to integrate them. So same sort of thing. It's the same as any sport. I'm breaking down the movements, then I'm integrating them, and then we're building those movements up.
Yeah, well, it's like they say, you're only as strong as your weakest link, aren't you? You need to make sure that you're building that base in such a way that you're minimizing any deficiencies that you have. And it's interesting, like you were saying, getting your clients or the newbies to do that type of work is something that's so often overlooked, because on the face of it, a squat is an easy movement, really. I could argue that I squat every day because I sit down and I stand up. You know what I mean? It looks to the untrained eye like a simple movement, but so much goes into it. You know, even some things that we were working on is I injured my back in the bottom of a squat, even after doing thousands and thousands of reps, because on that one rep I hadn't set my feet properly. And that stupid thing occurred in March. That was in March, and I still haven't returned to training properly now.
Well, a lot of powerlifters say it's easy because they're biased, because they do it all the time. But for the average person, or the person who doesn't understand the mechanics of squatting, it's not easy. But eventually it does become easy, but as long as you work on it all the time.
And it's like anything, you need to continuously work at it. And that's the biggest thing I can't emphasize enough, is people will hear a podcast like this, or what do I need to do before I get into a program, and think, I've been doing programs for years, I don't need to do this. I think it's important that at least once a year, after a big competition and in that GPP type phase, that general phase, you don't just abandon powerlifting training, or might not be pushing it the way you did in a comp prep with that level of specificity. You still need to reevaluate your technique, where those deficiencies lie. Things like there's an infinite amount of exercises you can do to achieve an outcome. For example, you can't be doing every exercise all year round.
Well, let's address that in a sec, and let's not get too far ahead into programming.
Yeah, sorry, going down a deep and dark rabbit hole. But before
which we'll talk about.
So what other things do you talk about with your clients before you start going down that programming route? I mean, I can't imagine you come in and just give them the program and see you later.
Yeah. So obviously, the things that like a program is. Like I said, it's like a street directory, but it's like a roadmap. But if you don't know how to drive, the roadmap's fucking useless. You know what I mean? So, but things that affect that street map or that program are the external factors you have in your life. Now, human physiology, we're not mechanically all that different. But why we do differ is how we handle stress and how we tolerate stress and how we eat and all the life circumstances we've got going on, whether your grandma died, all that sort of shit plays a role. Because stress and training, even though it's a stress, it's a good stress, it's still a stress. So good stress and bad stress are not always differentiated in the body. So it's like a stress accumulation can be too much sometimes. So obviously you got to look at food, you got to look at sleep, hydration. These play a massive factor. And also too, like if I'm programming for someone, so when I program for an online client or another in person, it's a bit different. But when I program for an online client, I have them on their training days track how many hours they slept that night with like a sleep tracking app or something. Then we're going to track morning blood pressure and resting heart rate. I'm going to track the calories they ate that day. I want to know how many calories they ate. Give them the program. I've got comments that they can write in how that day felt. They send me training videos. I look at the speed of the lifts and say, well, was it supposed to move like that? So on and so forth. So I get as good as I can idea of how they're responding to the program if I'm not there in person. Now this is where online training falls short. In person, as soon as someone comes in, I'm watching them when they walk in the door. How they move, if they're limping, if they're doing something, how their eyes look, if they look
even
drained.
If they just walk in chest up or hunched over.
Exactly, just their demeanour.
Yep.
And then the first question I ask them, I'm like, how you feeling? How'd you sleep last night? What'd you eat yesterday?
And it's not necessarily what they say, it's how they respond. Because I can easily say, oh, yeah, I followed the program. I drank the water, and that looked to the left. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and I imagine, like, it's easy for me to sit behind the keyboard and say, yeah, coach, I did that, wink, wink, you know what I mean? But to say that to someone in person, face to face, it's a completely different beast.
And that's the disconnect you lose as being with online coaching, is you lose that face to face. And that's the ability of a good coach's ability to read the athlete and make determinations based on what the athlete does. Charlie Francis always said, less is more, and be prepared to change based on how an athlete feels and what you see. So that's what you need to do as a good coach. You need to look at the athletes. Having a program's all good, but you need to look at how they're responding and how they feel on that day. Just because the program says 5x5 at 80%, if it's not moving like it should, you shouldn't be fucking doing it. You know what I mean? You either walk out of the gym, come back and fight another day, or you drop the
weight down
and get the volume in. And then obviously I'll see that with online programming. I like people to send training videos, and I like to see the lifts from like what I've got on the program, which is about 40 to 50%. I like to see all those sets, so then I can say, oh, well, it was moving all right here, but then suddenly it dropped down in speed. Or if I've just got their top sets, I don't see if they're doing something wrong from the beginning. I want to see what they're doing wrong from the beginning, or whether it was just something that popped up as soon as the weight got heavy. Because if they're doing it right in the set before and then they're doing it wrong there, then it's a load issue. So I can just manipulate the load, or just go, well, that's too much for them to keep technical form. We can make adjustments. Obviously you can see bar speed drop, and then you can figure out what they've done wrong. And then also, like, just because you have one bad session doesn't mean anything. Obviously sometimes you'll have a bad session, they'll get through it and you'll go all right, and then you'll have to wait to see what the next session is. And then the next session after that, if you start to have consecutive bad sessions, then that's a bad thing. But sometimes you'll have a one-off bad session, maybe you had a bad sleep, who knows what happened, you had a hard day at work, you're a bit more drained than you usually were, the wife's fucking in your ear or something like that. Not my wife, she's good.
Yeah, I had a client yesterday and she just said, her bench just like fell to pieces, and it's normally just pretty consistent. So she's like, I've just been really angry all day. Like, she had some dramas at work, but she's not an angry person. And I was like, well, that's just taxed your body. Like, you're not weaker. You've just had a bad day, and your CNS is affected by you being angry all day. I said, if you're getting mad, and she said she was having like really confronting phone calls with people and whatnot, and I said, well, you've got adrenaline and cortisol running through your blood that you don't normally have in there. I go, so you're no wonder you're not feeling your best to come in and then perform and put a weight on the bar that's like sort of, she's competing next week. It was a pretty heavy weight for her, but nothing she shouldn't have been able to do.
Exactly. And if you had programmed, 8 weeks out, given her an online program and tell me how your meet goes in 12 weeks' time, you couldn't make that adjustment. You wouldn't see that. But it's interesting what you were saying, Shannon, about technical breakdown may be different depending on the nature of the set. Your technical breakdown in a 12-rep set could be a muscular weakness, for example.
Yeah.
Whereas your technical breakdown on a 1RM is probably going to be more of a technical, not hitting the right positions type.
Yeah, so if obviously the higher the reps, the more fatigue's going to set in. And then is it an issue just because you're not in shape, or because of that duration of that set you just weren't able to keep focus? Or is it like a fact that your stabilizer muscles, the ones that keep stability, just don't have the endurance in them to really hold that stability in that joint, you know what I mean? So, but it's still, at the end of the day, it's still all technical breakdown. Wherever it breaks down, that's it, you stop. That's the easiest way to manage fatigue in a program. This is like, there's one of my big pet peeves about people like with high volume and smashing out high volume training. Like, people who have poor technique need to do more sets because they don't get the requisite training effect from that actual individual rep, because they micro change within the set or within the rep, and you're not training. It's like me when I'm throwing a punch, slightly moving my elbow each time. I'm not training that motor pattern of that punch, so I'm not actually getting better at that punch. I'm throwing my arm out, but what am I actually getting from it? You know what I mean? It's like you keep dropping your hand in a fight, you get knocked out. Do you know what I mean?
It's not precise repetition.
Yeah, exactly. Those repetitions need to be precise. So if you're doing the right form and you're really concentrating on, then you're going to get a lot out of that training session. If you're not, and a lot of online coaches is that they overprescribe volume by 15% because they know people are going to fuck up and they're not going to do it properly, and to get some sort of training effect they need to overprescribe volume. What happens when you overprescribe volume? Wear and tear on the joints. Every rep you do is wear and tear on the joints. So I want my technique to be the best and perfect, and I want to create the most tension, so I need to do the least amount of reps or sets and get the most out of the workout, so I get the least wear and tear on my body. Because powerlifting's not a 2-year sport. You see all these guys and girls come in and they're like a flash in the pan. Like, how many guys have we seen come through since we've been doing it that are good, and they last 1 or 2 years and they fall off the face of the earth because they get injured, or they get to a high level really quickly and they just get destroyed by the amount of volume that the coach has been prescribing, and then they never do it again. It's like, you needed to take not 2 years to get there, you probably needed to take 4 or 5 to get to that spot. Like powerlifting, if we go back to Ed Cohen's day, no one was doing 6-8 sets of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, Ed Cohen and Doug Finesse in their time were considered high volume trainers, and Ed was doing 2 sets of an exercise and training 5 days a week. Most guys did 1 to 2 top sets and trained fucking 3 days a week. Some guys even 2 days a week. And these guys were very strong and very jacked, but they lasted. Like, they didn't compete for 2 years. They competed for 10, 15, 20, 30 years.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because volume is probably the easiest thing to manipulate, because it's the easiest thing to quantify.
Yeah.
In one sense, sets times reps times weight gives us a number, and we can play around with that number.
Yeah.
But it's also one of the fastest ways. So if I'm paying someone if someone's paying me to coach them, if I want to see quick results, what do I do? Just smash them with a ton of volume.
100%.
And they're going to react. But the skill of the coach is to make sure that you're actually doing the least amount of volume to get
the
progress.
Most amount of training effect. And obviously, because, like, I don't know why you want to go in there and potentially injure your client for fucking $20-$50 a week. You know what I mean? Like, you're just ruining someone's health. That's my other fucking issue with this shit, with a lot of people going in and training people. You shouldn't be an online coach unless you've trained people in person for at least 10 years minimum, because you just don't know how people respond. You've never seen enough. You just haven't had enough bodies. I've been lucky enough to, like, train UFC fighters, train sprinters, rowers, football players. I worked for Randwick as a head strength and conditioning coach in 2007 with their development squad. I've had a lot of experience working with different bodies, and I've been training people for close to 20 years. So I've seen enough. I see what happens, and there's a lot of the guys that are just coming out now and they're just recycling the program they got off their guru coach and handing it out to all their clients. And yeah, the program worked for you because you just fucking went and rammed fucking 10 grams of tren in your ass, you know what I mean? Just up the volume and up the tren at the same rate. But that's not how you get people strong, and it's not how you keep them strong for a long time. It's a short-term thing.
It's not how you keep them healthy.
Yeah, I care more about people's health than anything else. You know what I mean?
Who do you blame for that? Is it the coaches who are trying to make the quick dollar, or is it the lifter or whoever it is that goes to them and doesn't hold their coach to a higher standard?
Well,
Both.
it's got to be a bit of both,
Yeah,
because in this day and age, everyone wants everything tomorrow.
I blame social media. Social media is a great thing, and we get to conversate and speak to a lot of people and share a lot of information, but everyone wants to hit lifts. Like, this is another thing, and you'll know from my training programs, we're not really hitting all-time maxes in training. I want people to hit the PR, and it does happen obviously sometimes in training because their training block just goes good that we get to hit a good PR, but we're not maxing out generally. Most of the time I want them to hit a fast single, and if that weight's a PR, it's a PR. If not, it's a fast single in that training block. But most of the time in training, I'm getting people to get the requisite volume in with the requisite form, and build upon that each training cycle, and not just putting lifts on Instagram. I don't care what you lift in the gym. I care how you lift it, and then I care what you do on competition day, because essentially, if you're a powerlifter, powerlifting's a competition. If you don't enter powerlifting competitions, you're not a powerlifter. You're a gym lifter.
Doing the power lift.
Yeah.
But I noticed with your programs as well, it gets to a point where I don't hit the numbers in the gym. I could, and I'm ready to, but you're holding me back, saying, wait. But you're building confidence by doing. You know what I mean? So
leaving a few in the tank is a biggest confidence builder. If you walk away, like I've got clients, especially coming from CrossFit as well, it was like that, like in CrossFit, no one cared if you would always go to failure. If we did a squat, a max squat or whatever, like most people would, like, not always me, like, but like most people would be like, oh, I'm gonna go for one more, when it was like, you shouldn't, because that last one was talk about form breakdown, but whatever. I'm not bagging CrossFit, but just I learned a lot coming from CrossFit to powerlifting. My squat's totally different now, but so you would fail, you go, oh, that's all right, I missed it, because you could just chuck that bar off your back, walk away. But like the amount of times that happened, it was like, well, wouldn't you feel better knowing, oh my god, I just PR'd and I reckon I've got another 5 kilos in that?
100%. There's nothing worse with, like, walking away with a missed lift. It just kills confidence. Like, essentially in the training programs, like you did today you hit a volume PR on squats, and the weight didn't seem anything fantastic, but we've spent the last few months and
felt pretty big to me.
Hey?
The weight felt pretty big to me.
No, but you know what I mean? On paper it didn't look that big. Do you know what I mean? Like, I like to put a weight there that it's not going to stuff for someone mentally, and I want to get them to a volume PR, but under fatigue, So she hit 3x3, but essentially we really haven't deloaded, and we've been in a base building block, so we really haven't gone over 85%. Most of the work's been done in that 65 to 75% range, and just a lot of multiple sets, drilling the form, nothing sort of heavy, a lot of safety bar work, a lot of buffalo bar, all that sort of stuff. And it's the first time she's put on wraps. And now she's hit a volume PR the first day in wraps, and obviously there's a lot of technical issues there and stuff like that, because she hasn't had wraps on. She's not as efficient she would be at comp time.
And my skin behind my knees was fresh.
But there's nothing like that to build confidence. You've just gone, wow, I've just gone and hit this. And then that flows into the next session, and then the next session. And
well, it just went from set to set, because I did 3 sets of 3 in the first set, because there was nobody else in the gym, and I was like, surely someone's going to come, and I just wanted that safety net of of a back spot. And then the first set, like we said, being in wraps, technically it was maybe, higher than what I was doing in the warm-ups anyway. And then, but then having hit that first set, still no one came to the gym, and I was like, all right, just watch the video back, which is another good reason to film your lifts, because it felt slow, but then I watched it and I was like, they were good.
Yeah.
And then for the second set, I was like, all right, I'm going to nail this. And then my third set was the best.
Yeah.
My last rep on the third set was probably one of the best reps that I did in all 9 reps.
Yeah. And it's talking about confidence. Confidence and commitment to training are two things that I find are very closely associated.
Yeah.
And going back to what you're saying before about, Instagram and social media and this and that, if you're relying on a 12-week program to give you the commitment to get into the gym, I think you need to step back a little bit.
Yeah,
it's
going to be short-lived.
I think commitment and dedication and what it takes to follow a program is something you need to establish before going into the program. Do you know what I mean? You need to make the commitment to do, even if it's 2 or 3 days a week, be realistic with what you can set to do and stick to that program, because there's no point you programming me 5 days a week because I tell you I can do that and I'm only going to go 3. I know I'm only going to do 3, but I want to look like a badass to you and be like, oh mate, I'll do 5, 6, 7 days a week.
But then the program doesn't work either, because the way I program 3 days is going to be completely different to the way I program 5 days. There's a different amount of frequency, volume. You're not going to get the same. With 3 days, I need a little bit more intensity and a little bit more work on each day. The more days I add in, the less I can do, because I'm sacrificing some recovery with those extra days. So I've got to manipulate it in a different way. So if you you'll get away with it doing it a couple weeks here and there, but if you're trying to run the whole program, a 5-day program, and run it 3 days, you're just not going to get anywhere. It's just, you're not going to hit, you're not setting the super compensation up to happen at the right times, and you're not allowing yourself to even get into that level of fatigue to create super compensation as well. So
yeah, a lot more goes into it than just, I see the 5-day program on the internet, I'll just, throw some numbers together, and while at the other side will pop some results.
Or people will say, oh yeah, I did it, and they didn't, and then they try and play catch up and squeeze like 6 sessions into 1 week, and or they'll just be behind, and you're like, well, when did you do that session? I just know you've caught people out doing that before. It pleases you to no end.
And what people don't realise is it's not strictly a week-to-week progression.
Yeah.
And something we'll talk about, sometime in the future, is how you specifically program with respect to high periods, low periods. Now, whether that's within a session, whether that's within a week, whether that's within a mesocycle, or whether that's within the whole macro cycle in terms of the training year, there's a bigger picture at play when someone like you programs. Now, if I'm just doing a series of isolated blocks back to back with no greater perspective on training, you can actually get into a stage of being overtrained and in a really bad position.
Yeah.
But on paper, you should be able to hit these lifts easily. You've done it before, you've done this, you've done that, but without having that greater perspective, you actually don't know where you are in your training cycle, in your training plan, in your training career even. You need to have those structured periods, and that only comes from having that experience and that eye looking over you, and not just jumping from program to program, week to week.
Well, that's what you said before about the 12-week prep and the 16-week prep, and I fucking hate that. Stresses me out to no end. People are like, I want to do a 16-week prep, and it's like the 12 or 16 weeks before a competition is when we peak. That's what we're doing, is we're getting your bones. People don't realise that bones play a role in this.
I know.
when you're applying stress to the body, you're stressing joints, tendons, ligaments. You're also stressing bones. Bones take a lot longer to adapt and and recover than the muscles do. And that's another pet peeve with the whole volume high frequency stuff, is that yes, you're factoring in muscular fatigue, you're not factoring in bone fatigue. And Stuart McGill showed this in endless research and MRIs and stuff like that. In powerlifters or heavy sports, the spine changes, the discs change, the bones change, they develop, they get stronger, everything else changes. It's they use weight training in elderly people to build up their hips, because you increase bone density. How do you think you're increasing bone density? You're applying stress to the bone is changing. So where was I went off track. Anyway,
that's all right.
Anyway, yeah, so
a
12-week prep. So obviously in that 12-week prep, I want you to get you accustomed to load. So we got what we want to display in the 12-week period is what you've built in the quote-unquote off-season.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as an off-season. We got GBP phases, base building phases, transitional phases, peak phases, all that sort of stuff. So the 12 weeks before a comp, I'm slowly getting you accustomed to load. If we're putting wraps on, we're trying to get more accustomed to the wraps, trying to build, just apply load to those bones and get them used to it, because you've been in a lower intensity phase, you're applying a way more muscular stress as well. So everything's not ready for that. You've got to build that.
But not only that, I mean,
resilience up, so that when you go to comp, you don't fall apart. So we want to start. So that's why I don't like the 16-week prep. I want to know someone's goal in the next year, and I want to program back from that goal.
Yeah.
So
and that's not to say that in the next 16 weeks they can't do a comp, but
no.
you just you can factor that into their training.
We'll factor it into the whole cycle.
Yeah.
So I'll go, okay, my questionnaire, I'll ask them what they've done and what they've previously done and where they're at currently with training, and have a look at all of that stuff, and then where they want to be in. But I don't really care about 12 months. If someone wants to train with me, I don't care about 12 months. I care what you do 2 years down the track, because powerlifting is a long-term sport. You're not going to be the best in a year. Like, some people want to suck dick and make phone calls to get into pro raw without just going to competitions. And Marcos watches all the competitions. That guy is like a fiend on the computer. If you lifted something in a competition, he knows about it. If you're worthy to get an invite, you will get an invite. That guy doesn't miss anything. Very rarely. Maybe if it's like some fucking weird competition in fucking nowhere or something like that, where some 3-letter fed with 2 judges or something. But
now, let's stay on topic.
He probably hasn't heard about you, but don't think about what you're doing in 16 weeks. Think about what you're doing in the next 4 years. And I want to think about what you're doing in the next 2 years and the next 2 years after
My
that.
program for PRX, Pro Raw 10, was a 24-week program. And then I had another 20-something week program so then it was a shorter one, because Nationals was shorter this year, but even we were at the airport on the way home from Nationals, and you were riding my program for Sydney Cup, and that's been an over 20-week plan as well.
Yeah.
And just to give some perspective, I mean, obviously at an advanced level, but how many times will that program change from 20 weeks out to the day of comp? I mean, I can imagine you're not that program gets altered, daily, weekly?
Oh, slightly. I mean, like...
We haven't really changed the program, but we've been last Friday, for example, I'd been sick the week before, and we'd had a really busy week, and I'd be on a course all day where I hadn't eaten my normal meals, things like that, and I came in, it was Friday night, and I actually forgot that I was meant to get my session done, because we were going away to work on the weekend, and so I was like, I've got to do my bench session, shit. So I was like, all right, we'll just suck it up, I've got to just get it done. And so I was meant to do 3x3, and I did the first set of 3, and the third rep on the first set was just like, I was lucky I got it. I didn't miss it, but I got it. But I was like, okay, we're just going to stop.
Yeah.
We're not stop. We dropped the weight down. We did one more set, and then we were like, you know what? It's just not there, and we just walk away. So we manipulate small things like that, but nothing. I've
been training her for a while, and I was watching her training during CrossFit, and I was helping her out in CrossFit, so I know her body pretty well, and we've done enough competitions that I've got a pretty good idea of what we need to do and what she can cope with week
I would
to
say
week.
I would say this one hasn't, whereas probably before we've
Yeah.
had to change it a bit.
Yeah, there you go.
So just over time, the
refining
longer
it.
you train someone, like I've always said, it takes me at least 2 years to figure out how to train someone properly, and then I've got an exact idea of like the volume they can tolerate.
It's like with Andrew, like
need,
with him.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like the same with Andrew, we know what works. We've fucked up peaks before. Sometimes you got to let your coach fuck up. I fuck up, and I learn something from that as well. You know what I mean? We put something in, it doesn't work so well. We go, well, we know that doesn't work so well, so we're going to not use that again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So sometimes the coach fucking up, as long as the coach is smart enough, is not a bad thing. It's all a learning process. The coach needs to learn that athlete, and that's the problem with people coach hopping and jumping from program to program. Do your research. Find a good coach, stick with that coach for a long enough period of time. Ask them questions like about what they're doing. Learn enough about the training process yourself so that you're informed enough and that you can make a good decision whether they're actually pissing in your pocket or they're they're trying to progress you.
And in what you're saying, coaching requires a degree of humility then.
Yeah.
Because there's no point saying, well, my program didn't work for you.
Yeah.
My program works for everyone.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, follow the system and shut up.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, because oftentimes people that are coming to you, I mean, to come to you and pay for coaching and turn up to sessions shows a degree of commitment in and of itself. They're typically not going to turn around then and completely make up that they've done what they've done and get to comp day and turn around and blame you.
That's debatable. I've had a couple of them. But it is rare.
But my point in saying that is... you need that humility as a coach to work with your athlete. But in saying that, as you've just identified, that's a two-way stream. The athlete needs to be honest with the coach, and the coach needs to be humble enough to listen to their athletes
100%.
and build that trust. And trust goes both ways. You need to trust your coach, but you need to be able to trust your athlete and say, if I've programmed that, I know this guy has done that. And if he hasn't, there's a good reason why not. And that'll allow you to... And that's the other benefit of being in person, like you were just saying, the proactive approach to training. You know, if you had pushed the 3x3 because you'd had numbers on the page... You could have written yourself out for 2 weeks. You know, you get
100%.
injured or you then overly fatigue, you get a cold, flu, and then you're in a net worse position. Whereas just dropping 2 sets in the grand scheme of things isn't as bad. You know what I mean? So that's the other benefit.
The confidence, like that goes with that. Like you just killed your confidence. Next time you get under that weight, you're going to doubt yourself.
Yeah.
And it's like sometimes you just got to chalk it up to a bad day and just move on. And that's obviously the downfall with programming as well. Like. I like to think of what I do as, like, obviously periodization, but I like to think of it as cybernetic periodization, which is the manipulations and adjustments of variables between the coach and the athlete as well. So I set the program for the period, and I've got a pretty good outlay of what I want to do, and then we make alterations as we go along according to some people, if they got sick or they had a hard week at work, and that's probably like one of why I like a concurrent training system so much, because it's a lot easier to throw in a deload variable than with a linear block, because sometimes it just screws that linear block for that person and you got to reschedule it. Do you know what I mean? Like it sort of makes sense where in a concurrent system you can chuck it in and it doesn't really seem like you're adding a full deload in, and it doesn't really. It's quite easy then to manipulate that system and squeeze some of the heavy sessions in or push some of the volume back into another session. Whereas if you just got to chuck in a deload, sometimes we can make that stuff up. That's where a concurrent system tends to be quite good.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to ask before we get too deep into the programming discussion, which we might not even get into tonight, is an often overlooked topic in powerlifting is a cardio base.
Yeah.
What do you do if, as we go back to that example before, the desk jockey comes in looking, oh look, I don't need to be that fit, I can just stand up and sit down once, you know, how fit do I need to be? What types of things do you do with your athletes we touched on GPP before in a muscular sense and the muscles that need to be trained and built, but what about in a cardio sense? What type of stuff are you
100%.
doing?
Try and get people to walk.
Yeah.
Like I like to measure blood pressure and heart rate because I care about the person's health, their cardiovascular health. And if they're in shit shape, they're just not going to be able to complete the requisite training volume, or they're going to have very poor recovery from session to session. So it's going to make it a lot harder to get the person stronger if they've just got a real poor cardiovascular fitness. Doesn't mean you have to be able to run a marathon, but you do need enough to function healthily. So, I mean, a lot of the times in the so-called like GPP blocks and stuff with powerlifters, we'll add in a lot of strongman stuff, we'll drag sleds, I'll get them to do their accessory work as a circuit, or we'll do like deadlifts on the minute or something like that, bench presses on the minute, so speed sort of type of work, but more for in an endurance base per se, more specific endurance base. But in the general population person, I want them to walk. I want my powerlifters to do at least half an hour of cardio a week, like minimum, even especially in a peaking block, maybe more in between days as active recovery, and just to keep them healthy, because obviously the volume comes down in a peaking block and you're going to detrain. You've got to overbuild that base, because you're going to lose it in part of a training cycle. Even if you're doing a concurrent system and you're trying to keep all the abilities training up to some degree at one point, you still need some sort of requisite training blocks where at some point that volume is going to be fairly low and the intensity is going to be high, and you're going to be so wrecked from the sessions that you're not going to be able to do much. So walking and riding a bike and something like that can be a great tool.
Yeah, and I think people don't realise that cardio in a powerlifting sense can literally be park a bit further away from the shops. Do you know what I mean? Pick up the pace when you're walking around the shops. Stop.
Yeah, it can be the stand efforting 10-minute walks.
10-minute walks after you eat, good for digestion.
Yeah, and those little things, it's the accumulation of all those little efforts that will result in, something beneficial by the time, it all accumulates at the end of the program.
Yeah.
And at the end of a period. It's those sustained and consistent efforts that really make the big difference.
Like the things I hated, like powerlifters, I need fucking 5 reps as cardio. Fuck off, mate. Really? Like, fucking, if you can't do fucking 5 reps at fucking 70%, you got something seriously wrong. Man, you're probably going to fucking die before you fucking really become a good powerlifter.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it, you know what I mean? Like, of course, when you come off a peaking block and you come back into your GPP phase or your high rep phase or whatever, a hypertrophy block, you're going to suck. You know what I mean? It'll take a few weeks.
The first couple of weeks.
The first couple of weeks, you're going to suck. But, like, the adaption's quick. But if you get into that next couple of weeks and you're not able to complete those 8 to 10 reps or multiple sets of 5 with low rest, there's a big underlying issue. Like, your cardiovascular system does not function properly, and it should function, because you've got to transport nutrients around your body. So you want a good functioning system. You don't want to die of a heart attack. Who wants to die of a heart attack? You're placing enough stress on your body as it is, being a powerlifter, and like doing stressful situations and everything else that goes along with it. So
you might need to spend more time there as well.
Yeah.
And you need to adapt to that on the fly. You know what I mean? You need to assess. As you're saying, you should be able to get back to building that aerobic base and things like that. But if it's not coming as quickly as you like, then you might need to spend some more time there. You might need to vary your training a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's, again, where the coach really comes into it, because they need to be able to spot that, and they need to be able to pick it, and they need to be able to adapt accordingly. So, anyway... I feel like we've given a lot of pretty good information. There's been a lot of things discussed, but maybe we should just wrap it up and package it. So what are some things that people should really think about before they start delving into programs and, being paralyzed by not knowing which program to do? What should we be talking about? Technique is where we started.
Yeah, technique first and foremost, always, over everything. Doesn't matter what your program says. If your fucking technique's gone to shit, that program's over for the day. Or you got to drop the weight or whatever.
Well, I'm not even doing the program. If you say squat and what I'm doing isn't a squat, because it's technically gone to crap, I'm actually deviating from the program.
Yes, 100%. So, I mean, again, the program is a roadmap. Sometimes you've got to take a detour. Sometimes they're working on a street. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's just the way it is. That's reality. And it's extremely hard for the coach to predict every situation that happens. So that's another important thing, is make the situation as predictable as possible. Hit the requisite amount of food, hit the hydration, get the requisite amount of sleep. Keep your stress levels as low as possible. Keep your cardiovascular health up. Like, those things are going to make a big impact on how that training process goes. If those things are all over the place, like, if I ask you, if you think you're a powerlifter and I ask you how much protein you ate today and you don't know the requisite amount or how many calories you consumed, why the fuck do you even have a program? Like, where do you think muscle is built? From thin air?
Yeah.
Like, you got to put something in your body for those gains to happen. They just don't happen out of nowhere. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I don't. And again, like, don't buy the SBD belt. Go and buy some food or get some nutrition coaching or something like that. You'll be a lot happier because you'll be twice as strong.
Yeah. No, I think there's a lot for people to take out of those things, and those little things, the accumulation of those little things, as we were saying earlier, is actually going to lead to a much greater result than following some, U-Butte Grand program.
Yeah. Sweet. All right. Let's wrap it up. Thanks for coming on, John.
No worries.
Pappas.
Big Papa.
Big
Papa.
Thank you, Green Squared, for having me.
All right, everyone. Enjoy.
Thanks,
See you later.
guys.